Looks like we're gonna start, guys. You want, Udita, you want me to use the mic, right? For the recording? Okay. So welcome, guys. Looks it's gonna be only the three of us for now. So I'm gonna use this opportunity to introduce myself. My name is Farid. I'm Lebanese. Been working in the automotive industry for the past 19 years. Out of 10 or 9 plus are in the training and development. Been all over the region. Saudi Arabia is my place mainly, but I've been in Dubai, Oman, Jordan, where else? Kuwait, Bahrain, Tunis, Morocco. So I speak English, Arabic, and French. I'm a certified trainer, and I started in the automotive industry from down below as a technician, and grew up until becoming the training manager at Tekani. Before we go deeper into the content, I'd like to know a little bit more about you. So tell me about you guys.
Great. Yeah, my name is Umar Khan. I'm been in the auto industry for close to a decade now, and most of that time has been spent in electrified transportation. And so I'm very interested in that, and I've done a lot of work in it and in the various aspects of it, from the development of technology, development of battery systems, all the way now to government policy and programs, and doing some consulting work for how fleets can transition from gasoline or diesel to electrified transportation. And so learning and development is a large part of what I try to do. And because there's a huge change management that's involved, right, once you're going from the traditional um, system to this kind of new advanced system. So anyway, pleasure to be here, and I look forward to this.
Okay, my name is Amr, or they also call me Amir. That's my English name, I guess, because it's easier. I'm originally from Jordan, but I lived the past 5 years in Canada. I'm a civil engineer, but so much interested in cars that I shifted my careers to. So I worked for Ford for like 5 years. Yes. And then, no, back in Jordan. And then in Canada, I just worked for dealerships like here and there in Toronto. So and now I'm residing in Dubai. Like I moved there in last November, and since then I had that chance. No, before Dubai, I was in. I went to a couple of courses in the U.S. because I'm like a fan of tuning cars and software development, right? Of ECUs, engine control units. So I took a couple of courses and I started working on some cars in Dubai, and now I have that dream, I call it, or idea of opening up a shop there in the north of Dubai, Al Rumul, that area. So I came to the show, and I would love to learn more about what's recent in the industry because I haven't been close to what's happening for a while. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the session. Seriously, thank you.
Thank you too. I'm getting to know my audience. So
We are uh, we are starting a startup in Jeddah for delivering spare part. New way to deliver spare part to Saudi market. Uh, it's a logistic, but involved in car industry. Okay. Uh, this we already start with Kaust University, King Abdullah. But still, within this year, inshallah, we'll start our delivery.
good job. Good job. طيب. لكن it's gonna be three, the three of us. Why are we here today? To try to tackle these three objectives. The first one is highlighting the importance of the continuous learning in the I sector, exploring what options we have in the automotive after sales, and last but not least, thinking of the best practices because there are many solutions out there, but some of them are not really convenient to a certain situation. So that's what we're gonna be exploring today. With that said, I'd like to know a little bit more on what you were thinking to get out of this session.
Thank you. I think it's for me personally, it's good to learn about what the challenges are from your lens, kind of in this domain, and how we can address those challenges as this automotive landscape shifts. Right. I mean, I see it shifting kind of for my world. What sort of opportunities will be available then, and what lessons can we learn really from the past, and how do we apply them to the future?
So basically challenges, opportunities, and the way forward. Cool. Welcome, guys. We're sort of discussing and trying to discover what you are interested in getting from this session. Anyone else? I'm gonna keep this question open, okay? So please, at any time, do ask me. The three modules that we will be covering are why continuous learning matters. Two is about our current opportunities of development, and third is the best practices. Expecting for this whole session to last around 150 to 180 minutes. It depends on how we interact. Definitely, your interaction is one of the essentials in making this session successful. So please do ask freely and share your thoughts at any time. Just a wink or a raised hand, and I'll stop and get to your questions. So, first module, starting with a question. What is evolving in the auto industry?
Thank you. I feel like I should be standing there next to you, but no, just joking. I think it can be easily summarized as cases. We have connected vehicles, we have automated vehicles, we have shared mobility, and we have electrified transportation. So that's, I think, the fundamentals of really the crux of what's changing in the automotive world. And this is going to basically, really transform this sector, right? And just in a few words, I would say. I'm pretty sure we can talk hours and hours on it, but that I would say is kind of the evolving trends.
What else is changing in the auto industry, guys?
Electrifying the whole sector, going to electrical cars. This will change the market.
Okay. Any other thoughts? You sort of hit 4 out of 8, but we're on track. So, electric vehicles, autonomous vehicles, connected vehicles. Those first three are related to the vehicles themselves. The product is changing. The second batch, ownership, mobility as a service, and customer expectations, and that's the people. Third is related to the industry. Digitization, AI is getting more into the industry, and sustainability and eco-friendly practices. Let's get into more details, starting with the first one. Electric vehicles. Everyone is searching for those these days, right? BEV, fuel cell electric vehicles, plug-in hybrids, and hybrids have been there for the past 10 years, but the technology is evolving. So looking into the Saudi market, how do you guys think electric vehicles will perform in the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, so the kingdom has very ambitious plans for those that may be aware. There's localized manufacturing. So according to Vision 2030, the goal is to produce up to 500,000 electric vehicles in the kingdom in Cake. If you've ever had the chance to visit King Abdullah Economic City, and so there's been heavy investments into Lucid, into Sear, and into Hyundai. The other trends are that there's a increasing investment in infrastructure as well with the creation of this company called EVIQ, which is going to basically put 5,000 chargers across the kingdom. And so what what's being done here is you're bringing both the chicken and the egg right at the same time, which we call in the industry, the vehicles and the infrastructure, right? So that's really the direction things are going in. We'll see how it really plays out. Past couple of days, been a lot of interesting talks from the Ministry of Investment and others as well. So the only missing piece is whether the consumers will adopt it or not, whether they'll buy it or not. And I think that's one of the things that no one's really talking about. The rest of the pieces are there.
Anyone else? Any other insights? You do know that the Saudi fund also has invested much in, yeah, Lucid. So we are heading that way. Saudi Arabia is the biggest automotive market in the region. It has the potential of becoming the biggest market of electric vehicles. It all depends, in a way or another, on how our consumers see BEVs or fuel cell electric vehicles.
Lucid in another category, not for public use, or but yes, yes. But with new battery systems coming, we can expect the price of cars to drop. Then it will go to market.
Nice insights. Yes, completely agree with you, and thank you. With that said, we move on to the second item under the vehicles, and that is autonomous vehicles. From what I know that you've visited some showrooms, automotive showrooms, these, if not days, months, if not months, you've heard about something related to autonomy in the vehicle. So how much do you know about autonomy or autonomous vehicles in this market? In simpler terms, do the current vehicles have total control over the ride?
Up to now, we are in still in driver assistant system. The system cannot get the ride all the time on the car. Still, there is need for a driver to take attention. Need maybe 3 5 year more to evolve this system to full take the control over the vehicle.
Honestly, gentlemen, the technology is there, but it's not totally released into the markets. And when we talk about autonomous driving or autonomous vehicles, we're talking about 5 levels. The top level is level 5 when you get into the car and that vehicle itself drives you from point A to point B with you chatting with someone else or completing a certain task on your personal computer. That vehicle itself doesn't have any options for human interference. They don't give you that availability. It's somehow like those trains or metros that we get some rides from, maybe the one that we're is going to be running here in Riyadh, or the one that might be some of you have already used in some other countries. So that's a completely autonomous vehicle, but the difference here is that it's on a track, right? The tricky thing on roads is having variables, uncalculated variables that come in into the math and sort of bring everything back into the chaos. That's the tricky thing in autonomous vehicles. This is why we didn't release, or the manufacturers didn't totally release that technology yet, but it's there. You need some infrastructure that will help you in that. Yeah, yeah. I like this discussion. Yeah.
I just mentioned with him like we have to start the for the infrastructure from the beginning to like make this the autonomous vehicles like working well. And if it's not ready very good, it's not like starting from zero. Maybe it's like making too much problems more than handling the situations. You know, this is from my side. How can I think? But I think the autonomous vehicles or the industry is not started from vehicles, and the infrastructure is not from the same companies or from the same, the manpowers they starting with this issue. So maybe if we have to start from the beginning, from zero. The zero is infrastructure. We have to start like making infrastructure suitable with autonomous vehicles. Maybe that's gonna like make it success more. Or if anyone here maybe can add comments of what I'm saying.
That's a great point. Just like to add that there's different use cases here that we have the technology available. I mean, I was just actually on the highway in North America just a couple of weeks back, and I saw a gentleman who was working on his laptop, and his Tesla was in full self-driving mode on the highway. So there are applications in which autonomous can be applied right now. Just in next year, Einride, if you're familiar with the company, they do autonomous trucks. We'll have basically a rollout in the UAE from all the way from I think they're going to go from Abu Dhabi to Sharjah, I believe, even farther than that. But that's coming next year, right? So the technology is available, and there are use cases for which it can be applied right now. And then there's use cases such as which are on busy streets with pedestrians everywhere, which perhaps is not the ideal case. And then we have autonomous taxis that are already operating in the United States, in Phoenix and in California. So it's already out there, and it's coming faster than you think it is.
Well, thanks for mentioning the 5 levels of autonomous vehicle, because I remember like a while ago I read an article about the 5 levels too, and I was surprised that autonomous vehicle we actually use some kind of autonomous options, right? Even like cruise control is some sort. I guess it's the most basic level of probably if there is like one lower level below that, but the second point that I want to mention, actually, it is like a reply to what you just mentioned about Teslas. I heard that they do have the technology to do that, but I think it was kind of illegal to like put your laptop on your lap and start working on it while the car is moving. I think I heard that you have to have your hands on the steering wheel for now, up until like probably these are the laws there. Maybe not. Yeah, I'll get to that. And then this third one is that from the technical point of view of a car, you got to have, because I read about it once for Ford vehicles, You have to have, because there's like a camera up front, few more modules that they have to be added, about 7 extra modules in the vehicle itself, which have to talk to the road itself. So on the road, there have to be some sensors that they can like send and receive back information from, and they have to analyze it. Yeah, so yeah, this is what I have in mind for now.
When talking about infrastructure, there is need to set standards before we start. Then we can go. All countries will start standard. Should set a normalization. Then we can start. We can also connected vehicle with autonomous vehicle. When vehicles talk to each other, the other part, the next part.
Which brings us to the next level,
Yes.
connected vehicles.
Should
C-
vehicle talk to other vehicle, talk to the infrastructure.
Yeah, yeah. When you hear the term connected, that's being connected to something, right? What can be under this umbrella of something or someone or some? You want your vehicle to be connected to what? To another vehicle. What else? We're trying to define X as much as we can. Yes? Infrastructure. Yeah. So another vehicle, the road, traffic lights. Um, yeah. Okay.
Intersections.
Intersections. Okay. Pedestrians. Okay, so basically, if you're connected to another vehicle and the infrastructure there and the traffic lights, you get the whole picture. Okay, so basically, you've mentioned three so far. The cloud. Okay. What else can we connect our vehicles to? Mobiles. See, that's the trick here. A month ago, if you would search for a certain application, any application on Google Play or um, Apple Store, yeah, you'd find a certain functionality there that wasn't available a month back. The way forward using these cars, these vehicles, is going to be somehow like our mobile phones. Because that vehicle isn't a vehicle anymore. It's a piece of technology that is being updated and updated a month after a month, a year after a year, and it has some tires that can move people around or objects around. Has any one of you ever seen how Amazon packs and sends the packages or the orders that they get?
It's all autonomous.
Describe it.
All to
In
describe.
simple words.
Uh, Something from out of Earth.
Okay,
That's
out of
that's the
Earth.
way that's the way to describe it. I mean, it's
Who's
very,
doing the job?
very high technology. The robots. Everything is autonomous. Yeah. I mean, there's no other way to describe it. It's just very, very high-end technology that
I'll-
you never see before.
I'll help you out in describing what happens in the Amazon warehouse.
Categorized more. They make it like categorized more.
Okay.
So the robots can handle from the shelves until the cartoon they back.
Yeah.
But they depend on how much categories and depend on weight, depend of the touch, or the physical touch.
Mhm.
maybe like just guessed because I did not hear about before. You ah um, maybe it's dependent like more classifications or subcategories by category and subcategory. So the robot autonomously they have to fetch the stuff they wanna back until reaching the cartoons.
In one word, connected. Since we're talking about connectivity,
Connected
so everything
and
is connected and autonomous.
replacing a human touch.
Yes.
There are no humans in the Amazon warehouses.
Yep.
Everything we can do, those robots slash vehicles can do. Now the question would be, what blocks that technology from it being implemented on the roads, right?
You have too many variables.
So as much as you would be able to read those variables, you'd be able to implement it. This is where the technology comes in. This is why we have those sensors, those control modules all connected within the vehicle itself and with all the things you've mentioned now. Your homes, the people, the pedestrians, other vehicles, the cloud, the road, the infrastructure, the signs, everything.
So the case of Amazon warehouse, they eliminate the human factor. That's why it's successful. But on the roads, you can't do that. Well, not yet. That's why it's difficult to apply right now. We still
Um,
have human factor.
I've been coming here to Riyadh for the past 10 years, and I know how we used to drive here, right? Um, I'm guessing those are, or this might be one of the variables we're talking about. In Jordan, we drive the same way as in Lebanon, as in Kuwait, as in, uh, except UAE, right? So those are the variables or the most important variable a certain system needs to accommodate. So far, so good. We've done the part related to the vehicles. Now we move to the people. What does the term shift in ownership mean to you?
It's like when they did ride shares back in the US. They did ride share like 10 years ago, where you have access to any car on the road with a card or with your phone.
Yeah,
Instead of renting a car, you just
yeah,
go in a ride share.
yeah, yeah.
So the concept here is that a vehicle is something, of course, you purchase, but it depreciates, right? It's an asset that depreciates and it sits around for 95% of the time, right? And then there are different use cases as well. For someone, who has a family but on the weekends wants to do something fun. On the weekdays he needs a SUV. On the weekends he needs a Porsche 911, just as an example. So I think this is solving for a problem that basically, this is at the end of the day for those that want convenience, right, rather than having to own a depreciating asset. And so, yeah, there's tons of ride sharing programs active, even in this region in the UAE, for example, is quite popular. If you're in a dense region, you only need a car once a month, right? You don't need to have it parked all the time, where sometimes parking is very expensive, right? And so there's a number of different issues here that are really shifting us away from the traditional ownership of a car, right, to when I need it or when I need that mode of transportation, then I can share it amongst a group of individuals within that network, and we can use it at our own convenience.
Which brings up a point, guys. That shift in the mentality of the end user might be a little bit tricky with people at my age, your age. I'm assuming we're almost at the same age, right? But the younger generations, Generation Z, Z, and the newest generation, Generation Alpha, they're not gonna buy a car. They're gonna use whatever means of transportation at their hand to move from point A to point B. And this brings up the next subject.
I think we still face some problem with the usership, uh, about security, about privacy of using the same vehicle. Need to search a solution for many subjects: privacy and security. Maybe he'll put a bomb for drugs and other. There is, yes, yes. We will face in our area, in this region, may not have more fans of this one.
Which brings the question up there, yeah. Mentality slash culture.
Culture, yes.
Yeah. So
Need mobility as a service. Need a company.
wise decision. Ghassan. Yeah. So not everything being implemented in the US, North America mainly, and Europe might be applicable in this region. There are many other factors that do impact implementing a certain strategy or philosophy or solution to a certain market. There's no one size fits all. And this is where us, all of us, working in the business, need to find what best solutions fit the criteria we have here. But it is out there. Might be done in a controlled area. Why not? We're talking about the people still. Expectations. I'm seeing some smiley faces.
like like we mentioned before about the mentality and the culture. It's complicated. Every human here in this stage, in this area, have another mentality, you know. So it's gonna be like how we can handle this with the autonomous vehicles. Maybe like from my side, maybe I have some problems for trust others. So how can I trust like autonomous vehicle or trust anyone driving next to me? And like what he's mentioned before about who's gonna cover the maintenance and the accidents may gonna face, we can say like the insurance at all. So if we like start thinking from the, as we mentioned before, from the infrastructure until we reach the technology, not the autonomous vehicles, we have complicated issues. We have to get involved more, and they're gonna be like need too much time, too much years, to be honest, to end this situation from my side. But the most complicated issue is the mentality and the culture, and in our region here, maybe as you mentioned, the next generations, alpha generations, or other regions, maybe it's like easy more, but sometimes I faced like we are dependent of our areas. If we seeing this succeed outside, we're gonna apply it in our area. This is gonna be like make it more practical in our area.
Completely agree with you. And I'd like to add one point, and that point is related to a factor that we didn't discuss yet, and that factor is the location or the city or the village that technology is going to be implemented. Say you're in, I don't know, Tabuk. Would you, would you be able to implement everything we're talking about here? So the ground itself under the infrastructure is a big factor also in helping us implement these strategies or not. But let's get back to the customer expectations. The product is evolving, right? What about our customers' expectations? They are too, right? In what way?
For example, our generation used to like drive fast, buy sport cars, enjoy the driving part. The new generation doesn't want the driving part. They just want to get from point A to point B. Autonomous car, they want to be driven to the other place, not drive to the other place. EV, for example, I have so I don't want to use the word hate. I don't hate EV. However, uh, I dislike EV for not having the feeling of the mechanics that we used to have in engine combustion cars, in fuel cars. So all this shifted, the customer base all shifted to the all new technologies that we're talking about.
Ghassan, you mentioned a very tricky word, feeling. Does that ring any bells? Feelings. I'll tell you something. Every purchase you ever do in your whole life, this is why the English term for the feeling you get after you buy something, if you're not completely convinced about, is buyer's remorse. In Arabic, it's ندم ما بعد الشراء, right?
If we are talking about the feelings, how we can apply this technology for the motorcycles?
Nice question. Can it be applied?
I can't trust my brother driving me in motorbike.
For autonomous vehicle, I can't put myself into this autonomous vehicle until it can drift like a human. This situation very dynamic.
See, it depends on
Not
us
like
as a humans what we are doing with the vehicle. If you're in a four-wheeler, you're stable, right? On two-wheelers, it's you doing all the balance. So personally, I don't see it being implemented on bikes specifically. And this relates to the feelings you get when you drive a certain car or bike. Expectations are based in a way or another on those feelings. If we bring another factor here, which is Generation Z, which are the latest vehicle purchases, right? They want to go from point A to point B without even thinking of how they do that. Our main subject is related to after sales. So, what do you think they would expect from the after sales?
Sorry, before I answer your question, because I think Generation Z would be like what age? For now, I'm not very sure. For now, Generation Z is like 20 years old, 19, something like that, right?
I'm
Gener-
I'm 37. I am Y, Generation Y.
so yeah, so let's speak about those who are 19, 20 years old.
Yeah.
Those are the ones who actually love to own a car, modify it, because those are the ones that I deal with on a daily level. And I still sense the fact that they still love their own cars, like to own it, customize it. This is the feeling that I'm getting from. And I was just like that. I'm still like this, but I had even more feelings when I was younger. This vibe is what I'm getting from this generation. But as we just all kind of agreed that the newer generations don't like to own the car and they just want to move from A to B, I think it's still personalized because some of my age, I don't want to be like those who are into more technology, IT, this kind of careers. They don't love to actually physically drive the car. They love to be driven. But I think it's just personal, like from person to another. It's not from generation to another one. I'm not very sure because I'd love to get data because if that's the case, then all customization businesses are just going down. Maybe because people wouldn't want to customize the car if they don't own it. This is scary. You know what I mean? In a way. Yeah. Okay, that's my point.
Because you're heading into that business,
Yes,
right?
exactly.
Hey, look, honestly, there will always be customer for every business. The big question is the numbers, the demand. Yeah. Um, I do agree with you. There are some percentage from the younger generations that do love their vehicles and do want to do customization. But the big question is what percentage? I remember from my age, we were ما بعرف 18, 19 years old. My primary dream was to buy a car, right? If if you chat with all your friends at that same age, we had that same dream. If you ask the 18-year-olds today, you'll get a different ratio. That's the basic difference. There will always be. I'm kind of um, testing the waters here, but you will always have some customers. It depends on how you market your product and um, what approaches you use to catch your fish in a matter of speech. Every fish has its own bait. You have to work the bait. Everyone happy so far? Okay. Moving on. So we're done with the product, we're done with the people. Let's talk about the industry. AI, the biggest threat. It's not a threat. It is? It's not? Why? Okay.
I think I'm kind of naive when it comes to AI, but so far we as humans been using AI. It's not that AI is using us, so it's a tool still that we use, and it's helpful. So I don't see it as a threat. It's just it boosts our performance when it comes to writing an email, writing a business plan, all that. We have to use it because probably before this topic, Google might have been like Google as a search engine might have been like a threat to us, but we used it, and now we're using even something more advanced, which is AI, Chat GPT, for me. And yeah, I think it's a good tool. This is my point of view.
Yeah. Any other thoughts?
Yeah, I think AI is here to stay. I mean, obviously, we can use it for it. You can make it work for you, or with it, or against AI as well. So there's so many ways you can use this tool. It depends on how much you wanna take advantage of it, and I think if you start taking advantage of such a tool now, it's better for the future.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Um,
Just like everything, it's just a two-sided sword. It depends on how you use it with AI. So, is it a threat, as you said? maybe if uh, if you don't regulate it, it has to be controlled. It has to be regulated. If it's not regulated, then it goes to extent that it might be a threat. However, as long as it's regulated, and it is regulated, so that's why I think it's more of a tool, like what you said, and it's more assisting us in saving time, being more efficient, productivity, and so forth.
Um, you all are right. Yet, we're thinking of AI from our viewpoint, right? What I've heard so far is from our personal viewpoint, us as end users using it. Think of it from a manufacturer perspective.
I was actually going to say that. So the 3D printed car that was all made by AI, all designed and made by AI, and it shows that fuel efficiency, aerodynamic, everything is just to an optimum level that no one got to, and it's all based on collected data and all the analysis that made by AI. So yes, in manufacturing, it will be really it will have added value to manufacturers and the industry in general.
Every tool that comes into the market, the end users benefit from it. That's the rule to follow. Now, who gets the bad who gets on the bad side of that technology? We have several examples since 2000, 3000 BC up until 2024. You know, some of the businesses, some of the craftsmanship are obsolete these days. So, what happened? Some sort of robot or some sort of technology or some sort of discovery or. So, AI is one of those that some will benefit from and some others will have to reconfigure their skills to be able to keep a living, as simple as that. And it is coming big into our industry. The question would be, I have no answer what that impact is going to be, but it's definitely coming. Digitization, we've been living with that for the past 5 to 10 years, and it's not leaving. So it all represents in the technology we're having in our vehicles and how the manufacturers are using that technology. Which brings the final um, subject or topic of this section.
Just a comment. I like my V8. Just, that's it.
Let me ask you something, guys. Catless exhausts. Yeah. Um, the question is, you've you've been noticing that a simple feature on the cars you see in the market is leather, right? Do you know the source of the leather seats?
Most of it are artificial.
Artificial? Okay. Not all, most. Synthetic, yeah. Yeah. Do you know why manufacturers are using synthetic leather? Ah.
I guess it's cheaper than normal leather.
Higher demand from. Okay. Okay. I'm gonna add one small insight. It's us.
Does it have anything to do with CO2 emissions? Because if you produce the synthetic leather, then you don't have to take it from animals that are going to produce more CO2 emissions.
True. And who's asking for reduced CO2 levels?
The government is going to have more regulations around that, right? You see that globally.
True. Based on
I don't know based on. It's a good
based on
question.
us.
Sure. Based on
Customers,
based
yeah.
on customers asking for
Yeah.
these.
Yeah. Trends are basically set by people. Manufacturers follow those trends. As simple as that. What you see here is the trend or is what the people want in the leading countries. And that is Europe, North America, and you know them more than I do. In this region of the world, we're not there yet. We're following those trends set by the market leaders. And basically, if we go back to all the 7 points that we've discussed so far, we can all relate them to the customer asking for that. No one will invest money in creating a certain service or a product unless there's someone who buys it. With that said, yeah,
About sustainability and eco-friendly, I just have one quick point where I used to have walks in Canada at 8 a.m. and compare that to a walk in Jordan at 8 a.m. Why say 8? Because by 7, cars are not out on the street, let's say, or 6 a.m. They're not out. So it smells fresh and nice. Once it hits like 8, 8:30, you smell diesel engines and out there in Jordan. And that's kind of awful for as an experience, I mean, to the pedestrians. Because like this is what I experienced personally, right? And compare that to whatever is happening, like when it comes to what governments are doing. Like a walk in Canada, even on a very busy traffic road, it still smells fresh, even when all the cars are out there, even in rush hours. I mean, so yeah, there's a big difference, and I'm very 100% sure that it's cars are what causing it because like before rush hour and after rush hour, the smell is different. Yeah, so I think that fits into like pours into the bowl of eco-friendly
true,
practices.
true. Speaking of Jordan, this is why the government there has been leading this region in supporting electric vehicles and hybrid vehicles by reducing taxes and simplifying the process of purchasing a hybrid vehicle or an electric vehicle. So, for a sole reason, that is reducing the CO2 levels, the NOx levels, and could be. There's a question here. What is this evolution impacting on after sales? And technically, we're looking at every one of the factors that come into building after sales. We've got the technical skills, the data management, the customer service, the soft skills of the people handling the people, and finally, the business model. We're going to discuss those a little bit more. So, starting with the first one, technical skills. What do our technicians need to do for following up with the technology?
Back in the days, carbs were like where with a screwdriver you can change the AFR air fuel ratios. Nowadays, it's more electrical, CAN bus, more modules. So technicians have to follow up, like become more aware. They have to understand how to read how to read like electrical drawings and electrical diagrams. Where back in the days, I don't think this was a necessary skill. So yeah, training is yeah, I have to follow up.
True, true. What else?
So I think new technicians coming into the workforce, they learn differently as well, right? I feel like they're not as open to opening up a 400-page service manual, and they want information and knowledge more on demand. You know, even at home, if something breaks, sometimes, you know, I look it up online on my phone, maybe I watch a YouTube video. I think they want this sort of environment at work as well.
True. This is why you've got the guided diagnosis systems on the diagnostic tools themselves. What else about the technicians?
It's not a technician anymore. Need a programmer now.
Nice insight. He's not a technician anymore. He's a programmer. Why? See, this shift in skills, we used to search for mechanics. Now you need electricians, right? Okay, because the durability of the mechanical parts is getting better. The quantity of those mechanical and moving parts is getting fewer. Thus, the need to change or to adapt the skills of our technicians into being able to deal with the new products. It's quite tough on some of our technicians. Some of our technicians. This is why we need to help them in their journey. Connected vehicles, linking it to data management. Remember, we talked about the car itself or the vehicle being connected to the cloud, to the other car, to the pedestrians, to the infrastructure, to your home, to your mobile. Wow, who can handle this data? Who can make sure that this data is not breached? Because it's personal data, in a way or another. Your driving patterns, the shops you stop by when you go to, while going home. I mean, we're already monitored, right? But there are some privacy policies to secure this data. That's another threat, or that's another struggle or a challenge that we need to cover in or while working in after sales. The next point. Remember, we talked about customer expectations. So the new journey or the journey that we will have to draw for our customers to follow should be also compatible with those expectations. And this raises the bar to not only our technical team, to our non-technical team also, the people dealing with the people, which requires some soft skills. I know some of you have went or visited McDonald's. Have you checked this computer where you get your order from, you pay, you just go to the counter, you take your burger and leave? Tell me, who have tested that or who has tried that already? Tell me about your feeling.
Yeah, I think there's two sides to it. The first side is, of course, right now we are lacking in our human interaction. I think we have lost a sense of kind of basic. I would say, I don't want to put it this way, but I would say it is decency, right? When you go to somebody, in general around the world, nobody asks the other person how you're doing today, right? It's a general way of starting a conversation, right? So I mean, these types of things are completely eliminating any sort of interaction, right? And the expectation from customer service or for businesses to provide any customer service and train their employees and just be there to satisfy an order as it's being plugged into a device and just kind of uh, being it's kind of serving that purpose, right? Rather than that human interaction. It's just out of the equation now.
See, we go back to that same dilemma that we were discussing a bit earlier. If McDonald's didn't know that their customers want that, they wouldn't have created this option for their customers to order their burgers, right? So some of their customers do want that service.
So, I mean, it's if you've been in that situation, and I've been in several occasions where you go through a drive-through and you order a certain thing and you know, drive on your way back home after 10, 15 minutes, you open the box and it's completely something different, right? So, so maybe this helps eliminate some of that confusion in the communication. But at the same time, I think, yeah, no, it's completely shifting how customer service is done, right? Because there's that interaction is being limited, right?
Which brings a subsection into that also. Our vehicles are getting more electrified. The mechanical components are being reduced. The failures, thus, are being reduced, right? Fixing a car would require the diagnostic tool being connected, and maybe the hardest fix would be a software update, right? Your phones. Hard reset, software update, up and running. So, with that said, if we're talking about the vehicle here and we've got the service advisor, the person dealing with the person or the people dealing with the people, imagine a customer knowing that their vehicle can be fixed in 30 minutes. How would you handle that? Another question would be, how would you able to charge the amount you're charging for a 30-minute fix or for a 30-minute repair? This is where the need of soft skills comes in. People handling the people out there. So much challenges up there. Moving on. We did talk about mobility as a service. We did talk about vehicles moving out from ownership into usership. If we look at these two factors, you'd notice that one car isn't being used or is not being used anymore by one user. That user is not the owner anymore. He is not the person bringing the vehicle to the service center. There's a company there, say for example, a leasing company or a software that was created to manage those vehicles. We talked about all these details earlier. So the business model in the after-sales industry, in the automotive after-sales, is also being threatened with the changes and disruptions getting into the industry. I'm not saying that this is going to be tomorrow, but if we don't keep an eye on those changes, our business model, the one we all know right now, the service center, you drive your own car to that dealership or workshop, you deal with the service advisor that brings in the car, that takes your complaint, you've got the technicians inside the workshop itself. That business model itself is under threat also. So we need to keep an eye on those changes to make sure we follow and adapt to what is happening in the industry. So a solution to that would be continuous learning. No one can rely on his previous knowledge in these days. That's way gone. And that's the end of the first module. Moving on to the second module. Before we go, 100 years back. Yeah. Okay. Opportunities of development. Where can continuous learning be sourced from? Several options are out there. You've got the manufacturers, you've got um, certification boards, you've got self-led learning, you've got third-party training providers or peer-to-peer learning, and this is basically here we're talking about forums or live face-to-face chat. I'm gonna give you some examples on those, quick examples. So if we're talking about the manufacturers, here in Saudi Arabia, we've got the المعهد السعودي الياباني, which is the most famous manufacturer-led training program. The other programs come from abroad. Such programs are easier, honestly, to find in Europe and North America, but there are some others here in the region. If we Google them, if we research them, you'll find them easily. For those working under the manufacturers, you've got always the easiest contact with the regional offices. So regional offices in this region do always provide training for their staff. The next point is related to the industry certification and qualification boards. IMI. Anyone knows who IMI are? Okay, so as their name says, it's the Institute of Motor Industry or of the motor industry. It's a UK-based organization. They do the same, not the same, but they do almost the same stuff as the SAE, Society of Automotive Engineers. They sort of lead the market in trends. They set some regulations. They help in setting some regulations, and they do the research in the automotive industry. That's from a global view. Okay, guys? Technical learning platforms. There are many others, but that's a small set of examples. Third-party providers, that's us. And there are many others. Nothing there to put, peer-to-peer. You access a forum, you access a... You just type your question on the web and you get an answer. The question, how to select the best choice? We thought of 3 factors that do impact the answer. It's how much money you've got to pay to train your employees, to develop your employees. It's how much time you've got, and it's related to the style. Any other thoughts that would impact the delivery of a certain training, in your opinion? Yeah, sure. So if you've got a working force, you're running or you're gonna be running your own workshop, right? And you wanna develop your team. What factors impact your decision in developing your team? Okay.
Because I have access to a trainer who I believe in.
Mhm.
So I'm gonna have him some sort of set the guidelines for each activity, each service,
Okay.
and they will have to follow it because he's like the one I know is because it reminds me of what they do in aircraft maintenance. The way they deal with it is like guidelines that you have. Like imagine they want to remove like an oil pump or whatever. So there are procedures 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
True.
and I want to teach my employees or the mechanics how to do it per book. Like if you got this issue, this service that you want to provide, and I have the human, like the person who's going to teach them exactly how to do it, because they can do it in their own way, but just to make things systemized. I guess this is the way I
True,
want to
true.
do it.
But let me ask you something. How much time will it take?
Maybe it's intensive, but it's a learning curve. So at the beginning, it will be a little bit harder at the very beginning. But once we have 4 or 3 trained staff, right?
Okay.
So at the beginning, it's harder. But
So
it's-
for you, you're willing to spend the time to get your team up to the certain level. For you. I'm not saying it's wrong, although it is the best approach. But sometimes when you've got your operation running, would you be able to take your team off and send them for a training? Okay. Yeah, yeah. So the thing is here, there are many ways to deliver certain knowledge. Factors related to those are money, how much you want to pay, how much time you've got, and what is the best way to deliver that knowledge or idea. With that said, we hop into the last module, module 3, which covers the best practices of continuous learning, and this is based on science. So, question. It shouldn't be. It should be separated. Yeah. Any other thoughts? See, me working in the business for the past 10 years, we as trainers, as coaches, as consultants, we always get this question. You are removing my working team, you are removing my working force off the field, and I am losing money and time. I intentionally put this question up there because sometimes also we look at training, specifically training, as a magic wand. I send my team to training, they finish that training, they get back, they know everything. Whereas in fact, that's not reality. The reality is that the latest best practices are related to blended learning. And by blended learning, we mean different methods of delivering and executing a certain idea. Micro learning, small bits of data, rather than having the whole team or a certain person out of work for 6, 7 hours. You can get them out of job for 30 minutes only, regardless how you give them the information. But you bite size that data. Another one would be self-led learning. We as business owners can have access to learning platforms where we give or grant that access to our specialists. We follow up with them, but they do that learning on their own time. Can be done during work, can be done extra or out of work hours. Third one, the traditional face-to-face learning. Easy, right? Simulation and gamification, bringing in the theory into practice in a gamified way. It doesn't apply to all concepts, but it is out there. It basically tests the knowledge and the skills, and not the hard skills, somehow the soft skills. Last but not least, coaching. And here there's a major difference between training and coaching. Anyone knows what that difference might be?
think you can't start if you've no idea about what you're doing. You can't go to a coach. You have to get the basics, try by your own, and then start reaching out to a coach who can guide you. But you have to have certain like package of skills in order to start reaching out to a coach, because yeah, you can't get it from the like he's not gonna teach you one, two, three, the basics, but you can develop more if you like. So I don't think it's the first level of learning. I think it is advanced.
I agree with you. It's not the first level of learning. It's a little bit more. Um, any other thoughts about coaching? Simply put, the philosophy of coaching is based on the coach and the coachee, preferably one-on-one sessions. The coach has the ultimate task of evoking awareness. These two words are the key of coaching. Why? Because in coaching, or coaching believes that every person has the capability and can be pushed. By pushed, I mean giving them the will to discover what needs to be discovered on their own pace. So the coach basically is not handing any data, he's just triggering awareness, triggering some emotions out there, some thoughts out there for the coachee to do the learning by himself. Why it is important? Simple. Because based on a study conducted by the National Training Laboratory in the US, they've discovered that 5% of what you get remains using a traditional lecture. 10% by reading, 20% if you use audio visuals, a movie, or a short documentary over YouTube. Demonstration, me showing you something, that's demonstrating. But all of these didn't really touch the 50% of the knowledge that you want your team to get. So that's basically a very poor return on investment. If a certain person hands 100% or gives 100 idea, your team is only getting 5, 10, 20, or 30%. This is why we call those methodologies as passive. The latest trends in learning and development follow active learning. And when we talk about active learning, we're talking about group discussions. We're doing that right now. Practice. You or your team doing the thing within the session itself, getting feedback on that, practicing that, and the ultimate ROI is when someone transfers that knowledge. And I think every one of us at a certain point has done that in his life. Someone asks you something, you answer. That person tells you, thank you. You've just given me the best piece of info in my life. Going back to you, what happens to you? That piece of info is stuck there. You will never forget that anymore. So the ultimate way of guaranteeing a return on investment is a person transferring that knowledge that he got. With that said, we kind of blend all of these methodologies into one learning journey to guarantee the ultimate ROI. And it all starts before the event itself. So D-Day is on 0. The training and development recommendation is to start thought processing before the event itself. So if you're sending your team to a certain training, We need to set the atmosphere for that. Sometimes might be you using a small prerequisite task, sometimes might be field visits, role plays, anything. But the recommendation is to have the ground set before sending someone. Once we reach the day, training, traditional face-to-face training, we know that around 60% of the knowledge will stay by the end of the first day. But if we leave it all by itself, deliver the training and leave, by the end of the week, zero retention. That's the trick there. So we start blending our learning approach and we add something there out there. We add a certain task or an activity that comes after the training itself, where the participants should fulfill. After that, we include gamification or simulations, which also brings up the retention levels. Last but not least, one-to-one coaching or peer-to-peer learning. It doesn't have always to be through a certified coach or a professional. It can be from one person to another. Look at that. From zero retention in 7 days to around 70, 80, 90% retention by the end of the week. Or maybe by the end of the month. So these days aren't really fixed. You can reduce them and elongate them as much as needed. The keynote here is using the blended approaches to deliver the needed learning. We're done with our session. I'd like to hear some questions, thoughts from your side. An hour and a half. Yalla, questions, comments. Thoughts, insights. Did you enjoy it? Let's start with the basics. Yeah? What did you enjoy the most? Interactive part. Okay. Okay, we can do that. Okay. In Tikane, we do sales and after sales, technical and non-technical, for frontline and managers. So basically, the whole team that you might get at your workshop, we can help you in developing their talents and getting the results that you seek to you want to have. Have I answered you? We do consultancy. Other questions, guys? Comments on these 90 minutes that you've spent with me? Cool. See you in Dubai. Try to meet us there, okay? We're running the event in 10, 11, 12 December. The weather will be awesome. Thank you, guys.